We'll do a review on Likutei Sichos in Chelek Chof, volume 20, the first Sicha for the Parsha of Toldos. In this Sicha, the Rebbe explains the Rashi that Hashem shaped Yitzchak, that he should look like Avraham. So because to counter the mockers, the one who made fun, said that Yitzchak wasn't really Avram's son. So what did Hashem do? Hashem made Yitzchak look like Avram, so everybody can see Yitzchak is Avram's son. And the Rebbe says it's mashma that this was like a big deal. Hashem made Yitzchak look like Avram when that's really naturally. In most cases, the son looks like the father. The Rebbe explains basically that Yitzchak and Avram had different characteristic traits, and Avram is Chesed and Yitzchak is Gevura, and usually they should reflect the level that they are. But in this case, it was from a deeper level that Yitzchak looked like Avram, as the Rebbe will explain. There's also many heroes in the end of the Sicha. One of them is that Shem could have made maybe Avraham to look like Yitzchak. Why did he make Yitzchak look like Avraham in order to do that? And Avraham is Chesed, because if you have a choice, Chesed or Gevura will choose Chesed. Will make Yitzchak look like Avraham. We'll see inside. Let's go step by step. Aleph, Toldos, Aleph. Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. Avram Hoilides Yitzchak. So the pasuk says these are the generations, the happenings of Yitzchak, Avram's son, and it starts off by saying that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. So why is it necessary for the pasuk to say Avram gave birth to Yitzchak? And Rashi comments, bringt Rashi was Chazal. Rashi brings down, our sages tell us, the mockers, the fun makers of the generation, they would say that Sarah became pregnant for her son Yitzchak from Avimelech. Avimelech is the father of Yitzchak. So Ma also HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how did Hashem counter that? What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Tzor cluster ponov shel Yitzchak. He formed the image of the face of Yitzchak, doime la'Avram. It looked like Avram. Ve'idu hakoil, so everybody testified, Avram hoilides Yitzchak. Yes, Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. So the pasuk is saying, Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. How do we know that? Because Avram hoilides Yitzchak. Look, Avram gave birth. He looks like him. That's what Rashi brings down. But Rashi doesn't just say that he looked like him. Rashi says, what did Hashem do? He made it. It seems like this was a special act that Hashem needed to do. It doesn't just say that he looked like his father, and therefore there's no problem. Hashem made it that way. Why is it such a big deal that Hashem has to make it if a son should look like the father? So we need to understand. Our sages of blessed memory give out this idea by a question and a response. Question is, Ma osa Kodesh Baruch Hu? What did Hashem do? So he formed Chulu. The sages, they're not satisfied just to say Bikitzer u'b'nechusa, saying short and in an answer, not the question and answer. That they would say, not Ma'osa, what did he do? Just Hashem formed that his face looked like his father. Without using the words, what did Hashem do? It seems like it needed to be a special action for Hashem. is mashma. So from this it appears as in the inyan von Tsar cluster pond of Chulu is do a spezieller öftu, that there is something special, novel about forming the face of Yitzchak to look like Avram. And the first state is Blush Shaila. That's why it's a question. Ma'osa Kodesh Baruch Hu, bit me, I'm wondering, what could Hashem do? Was hat der Eibishter speziell getan? What did Hashem specially do? So Bavornen the Taina from the in order to answer and to caution us of the argument of the mockers of the generation. So Hashem needed to do something special. The question is, why is that considered to be something special when this seems to be almost naturally? Is Tamuah is surprising. In Vos Bashtet der Bazunder Uftu, what does it consist, this special novelty, from Tsar cluster Ponov Shel Yitzchak Doimel Avram, that Hashem formed the look of the face of Yitzchak should be like Avram? This is something which is common by nature. As a ben is Doimel Avim, that a son is similar to his father. There needs to be specific reasons that he should not be similar to his father. So that's a normal way. So why do we say here, what did Hashem do? This had to be done in a special way. In Ois Beis, the Rebbe will explain that sometimes we need to do something. What is ma'osa? What is it hard? Is because if by right and by justice, it should be one way, for Hashem to act in a different way sort of causes a hardship, sort of like we say, Metzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas, it's hard to Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea. What's so difficult? And the difficulty was, the Rebbe will explain, that to punish the Egyptians while the Jews are being saved, when inherently there was a argument by the Midas Hadin that the Jews are no better than the Egyptians. And the hardship is to go ahead and act differently with the Yidden versus then with the Egyptians. The Rebbe is going to explain the hardship in Cluster Ponov is because Yitzchak, in essence, is on another way, should not be Cluster Ponov, as we will see. Base, but das Verstehen leiten wir in dem Loschen, was Chazal sagen, we'll understand it by explaining the language that our sages of blessed memory say. B'shaychus to kamen yonim, in relationship to many matters, as is eine koshe kikriyas yamsu, they are as difficult as splitting of the sea. So we're saying it's difficult, which means as oichel gaba kodesh baruch hu, that also relative to Hashem is as koshe kaviyachol, something which is difficult. Is yidua the hasbara in them, so it's known, the explanation, as their koshe for kriyas yamsu b'shtei beikir. What is the main difficulty in the splitting of the sea? Nit in them was the yam is nikra gavarim. This is not just the fact that you could split, that the ocean has been split. That's not the difficulty. When in them was the noch, and also later on, after you split, is a given nitzav kumeneid, it stood up like a wave. It was standing. It didn't fall. That's not really the difficulty. Especially the Rebbe says in the bracket that this miracle is actually not as phenomenal a miracle as creating the world from ex nihilo. Ubefrat. Befrat pia mavur in Tanya, especially the way it's explained in Tanya. As kriyas yamsu v'zaklener pella v'briyas shemayim v'oretz. That splitting of the sea is a lesser wonder than even creating the heavens and the earth. We can't call it kosher that it's difficulty. Is the Chabad nicht shaykh zu sagen, dafke if them kosher, so for sure it does not really apply to say only on Kriyas Yamsuf that it's hard. Nor, so what is the difficulty? Consists, it's not the splitting of the water, that's the difficulty. Nor in them was by Kriyas Yamsuf seine gewinnt zwei Hofchen biyachad, the fact that by Kriyas Yamsuf there were two opposite at the same time. Rafuli Yisrael benoguf lemitzrim, that it was healing for the Yidden. They were saved, and the Egyptians were plagued. That same splitting caused the plague for the Egyptian. Why? Because it had not been split for the Yidden, the Egyptians wouldn't go in there. When the Yam sich nicht gespalten, had the sea not split, wollten die Mitzrim nicht rein in Yam. The Egyptians would not enter into the Yam. So it turns out that same splitting, which is saving the Yidden, is the destruction of the Egyptian. And that was Bishas as Midas Hadinot Getainet. The measure of judgment's argument was Man nishtanu elu me'elu. Why are these one different than these? Elu avida v'devizora, ve'elu avida v'devizora. These are worshiping idols, and these are worshiping idols. Umahai time is this kosher, and for that reason, that becomes difficult. Bottom, al pi ha-seder, according to the seder, darf men zichrechne mit midas adin, one needs to consider with the measure of judgment. Normal ways, judgment argues that why do these deserve? That is an argument that needs to be reckoned with. So the difficulty by Kriyas Yamsuf hat man sich nicht gerechnet mit dem. By splitting the sea, we did not consider that. That makes it difficulty, not the actual splitting of the sea, but rather the splitting of the the idea of not paying attention to the Midas Hadin, the conflict in the not doing seemingly what is right. Gimel. Al derech zeh that man ook verstehen binyanenu. Similar would understand in our way is to form Yitzchak that should look like Avraham. It's hard to explain because Chesed and Gevura should have different looks also physically. Gimel al derech zeh man ook verstehen binyanenu. Says you do der chiluk zwischen Avraham and Yitzchak. It's known the difference between Avraham and Yitzchak. Avraham is given Avraham Oyavi. Avraham was Avraham who loved me. Amer kovetz midas chesed. He was a carriage, a chariot to the measure of kindness. Und der Far is given avidose b'gmilus chasodim b'achnoses orchim. And that's why his service to Hashem was acts of kindness and inviting guests. That was the level of chesed. That was his main function, was to do chesed. And Yitzchak, on the other hand, is given pachad Yitzchak. He was the fear. The Eibishter calls him pachad Yitzchak hoyeli. Yitzchak's level of service to Hashem was level of yira, of gevura. Amer kovet sumitus hagevura. He was a chariot to the measure of gevura. Was their father is avidos given chafiras beidas. That's why his job, as described in the Torah, was digging pits. That is gevura, which means arop nemen the erdun steiner, to remove the earth and the stones, v'zayin lechasei from ma'ayin, which cover on the well, umegala zayin the mayim chayim hanovim milmat lamayla, and to reveal the living waters that flow from below to above. Und der Fahr ist do euch achiluk euch benegeya zu yotzam mimenu. And because these are different approaches, the approach of chesed, merkava to chesed, which is to be mamshich, to give, and the approach of gevura, which is to elevate, to remove the obstacles, and to bring up from the low to above, is also a difference in as far as Yotzo Mimenu. What came out of him, which is Yinikas Achitzonim. Who came out of Avram? Yishmael, and from Yitzchak came out Esav. There's a difference. Vidos is mitzad kava chesed from Avram, as it comes from the line of chesed from Avram. Vidos is from kava gevura from Yitzchak, and it's from the line of gevura that comes from Yitzchak. Avram yotza mimenu Yishmael. Yishmael is chesed the klippa, because there chesed gets chesed. Und Yitzchak yotza mimenu Esav al char b'chol tichya. Gevura the klippa. It's gevura the klippa. They live on your sword. Esav is gevura, and Yishmael is chesed. So therefore, you see that chesed begets chesed, gets Yishmael, yotze menu. Gevura begets gevura, Esav. So it almost seems just like Esav is a child of Yitzchak. He has gevura. So since Yitzchak was, because Yitzchak is gevura, but Yishmael on the other hand is chesed because it comes from Avram. But Yitzchak, who comes from Avram, is not chesed, is gevura. Und das is einer von the biurim. So the Rebbe says we have to understand. The Torah wants to say over here. The Rebbe explains now that if you compare Yishmael to Yitzchak, it almost seems like Yishmael is more associated with Abraham than Yitzchak is, because Yishmael is chesed and Abraham is chesed. But Yitzchak, that's why the Torah Rebbe will explain here, when we're following what happens Yishmael in the previous parsha, the Torah is telling you, no, Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham, to tell you Yitzchak is really the son of Avraham, although Yitzchak is the level of Gevura, but he is the Mamshich and he is the Hemshech of Avraham. But it becomes important over here because we're reading about Yishmael. Let's see, because we have a few questions the Rebbe is going to ask now. Why did this part to tell us Yitzchak ben Avraham starting off in this parsha over here? Let's look inside. This is einer von the biurim. This is one of the explanations. Favos der posik darf sagen und darf gedo. Why the posik needs to say, and specifically here, Avraham hoili des Yitzchak, that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. The lechayre is not verstandig. It's not understood. Number one, why is it over here that we're saying that Yitzchak gave birth to Avraham? Yes, the fun makers were making fun. But why in this part over here? Aleph. The hechrech bichlal. Why do we need to say Yitzchak? Avram held his Yitzchak because we said Yitzchak ben Avram. People were saying it's not true. Yitzchak is not really Avram's son. Hashem made him look like his father, so everybody would say Avram held his Yitzchak. But why did the Eibishter even have to say that Yitzchak was the son of Avram? The Torah Kodesh just started with Eila Toldos Yitzchak. We don't have to tell you Ben Avram. We know already before. Or the number two, this should have been mentioned when Yitzchak was born. Aleph. The first problem, to say that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak is norval the pasuk the month freer. It's only because the man pasuk mentions earlier Yitzchak ben Avram. When Rashi's mefarish, Rashi explains Al Yidei Shekos of Hakosu Yitzchak ben Avram Uskak Lemer Chulu. Since the pasuk writes Yitzchak the son of Avram, that's why he required to say that Avram is Yitzchak, because people were saying it's not Yitzchak ben Avram. So then we can ask that alone. The Verter ben Avram, why does it even have to say Yitzchak ben Avram? You don't have to say Yitzchak ben Avram, and then you don't have to say Avram is Yitzchak. Toldos Veisman didn't have to state that Yitzchak is the son of Avram. Toldos Veisman came from the Friedrich Sedris. This is already known from the previous Sedris. So therefore, you would not have to question and say Avram heard this Yitzchak. So you wouldn't have to say. You just say Eila Toldos Yitzchak. You can start saying right away Toldos Yitzchak without mentioning Ben Avram, or not even saying Eila Toldos Yitzchak, just to say Vayi Yitzchak ben 40 Shana. So number one, it didn't even have to say Yitzchak ben Avram, so that's why we need the pasuk say Avram and Yitzchak. Beis Favos is the Torah Meram is the Bavornish of Tainus Litzone Ador Esht in Parshas Toldos. Why does the Torah wait to hint to us this answer to the argument of Tainus, the argument of Litzone Ador, of the Makros, the generation, Esht in Parshas Toldos? Why wait till this point in the portion of Toldos? Wo es redt sich bi Iker wegen Toldos Yitzchak Yaakov Esav. Mainly we're talking about the Toldos Yitzchak. We're not talking about Yitzchak's birth. It talks about Yaakov Esav. Why did we write over here about the taking away the argument of those who want to make fun? Unoich Toldos Buras Yitzchak, also the children, and also what happened to Yitzchak. Und Yitzchak ben Avram wird oblois the Mother Chagav. And he was also only mentioned, by the way, Yitzchak ben Avram. It's not really discussing now Yitzchak's birth. We're talking about, not talking about how Yitzchak was born. We're talking about Yitzchak's children and the happenings with Yitzchak. So, and the fact that Yitzchak ben Avram is just, by the way, we're just telling you, identifying Yitzchak with that. Why do we have to say the L'chayra? Das hat gedacht stehen in der Friedrike Sedra. This should have been written in the previous Sedra, wo es redt sich wegen latest Yitzchak, in which it discusses how Yitzchak was born. Should have said that Yitzchak is really Avram's son. Not the beer in them. The explanation is this: from Loshen HaKosuv, when the pasuk says, "Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak Goyber," mitavov hamoisif, it says, "and these are." So previously we talked about Yitzchak's Avram's children. Previously we talked about Yishmael and his children. How Avram gave birth to the new family, and then Yishmael and his family. So over there it says Veg Yishmael, and now the pasuk says Ve'ele mitavov hamois, and this are Yitzchak's. Ve'ele tuli is muchach as the parsha kum be'emshach zu frier was that's Veg Yishmael. Over there it's talking about its continuation, it's following about what we talked about Yishmael. Und wie bald as euch Yishmael is ben Avram, and since Yishmael is also a son of Avraham, not only is Yishmael also a son of Avraham, va'adrab begidli hot Yishmael mer shayches l'chayre zu Avram v'Yitzchak zu Avram. In the open way, it seems like Yishmael has more connection, chesed, more connection to Avram than Yitzchak. Well, Yishmael is bekava chesed. He is also in the line of chesed as Avram, like Avram. Only thing is, he's not chesed the kedusha, chesed the klippa. But it is chesed the klippa, but he's still chesed. When an emtzich von Avram, but he comes from Avram, he left him. He's not still Avram. Arois from him, exited him. When Yitzchak is kava gevura, hebrew kava chesed, but Yitzchak is in the line of gevura, which is obviously kava chesed. The Rebbe after euch by Yitzchak. So therefore, Torah is saying. So since we're saying ve'ele and these are the hemshech to Yishmael that we were discussing before, and these are the children of Yitzchak, but we're talking about the followation of Yishmael. The Torah has to say zog euch by Yitzchak as it is ben Avraham, that he's also a son of Avraham. Unoch meisiv zayin, and to add Avraham ha'litzes Yitzchak, that Avram kind of gave birth to Yitzchak, which means the Torah emphasizes is Avram is connected to Yitzchak as Adrab. The Yachas from Yitzchak to Avram, the relationship from Yitzchak to Avram is Gorba Oifun Miyuchad, is actually in a very special way, not just connected, but in a special way. Nit nor is Yitzchak ben Avram. Not only is Yitzchak Avram's son, but Avram hoilid as Yitzchak. Avram gives birth to Yitzchak, which means in them is Bashtan and Iker in Yoni from Avram. That consists the main aspect of Avram. Avram gives birth to Yitzchak, not Ishmael. Yitzchak is holy. As Zoyvi state in Posik, as the Pasuk says, that your seed will be Yitzchak. That's the connection. High time of as the Torah erst in Parshas Toldos, and for that reason, the Torah only tells it to us now in the Parshas Toldos. So why is it the same now? Because here we're talking about the B'shas Meleren Toldos Yitzchak is Esau. Yitzchak's children is Esau. Gevura the Klippa canal. That's Gevura of Klippa. As mentioned earlier, that Esau is Gevura of the Klippa. And we're going to learn that the main avoid of Yitzchak is Chapiras Beida, is digging the wells, Heipach from Avodas Avram, which is opposite. Avram is Mamshich Chesed and Malamata. He is doing Matlamaylo. Then there is a forceful argument of L'Tzoyn Hador. As Yitzchak hat nit gescheiches mit Avram, that he doesn't have a connection to Avram. The Torah needs to caution us over here, and when we learn about Yitzchak's avodas, and we learn about Yitzchak's children, that he had Esav as well, Yaakov, but he had Esav as well. So we have an argument. Yitzchak is Shaykh Avram, and Darf is Shelozai. So we need to reject it. That's why here is the place. And it takes a special act because since that's not so natural, because naturally his face should be a face of Gevura. Dalet. This is the Schwierigkeit l'mayla kav yochel. This is the difficulty. In Tzor cluster Ponav Yitzchak Doim L'Avram. He formed the look of the face of Yitzchak that should be similar to Avram. Dos was ben is Doim L'Aviv. The fact that usually a son is similar to the father is as mitzad them that comes from the fact was der ben nemtzich von av. The father, the son comes from the father, from his body and his soul. So that's why he's similar in his body and the characteristic of his soul. But when we look at Avram v'Yitzchak, since in the characteristic of their soul they were opposite one another. Avram is given from Midas HaChesed, and Yitzchak from Midas HaGvura. Avram was from the measure of kindness, and Yitzchak from the measure of Gvura. And that's why they were all so different in their minds, different in their emotion, and different in mind. Because as the Rebbe will bring down, the emotional source, what you're prone to, will also direct your mind. Kiyadua, like we know, that a person's stringencies or a person's leniency is dependent and with which is associated his character trait, which they're associated with. Kiyadua binyan b'shamay b'sil, as we know with regards to b'shamay b'sil. As mitzad dem chiluk b'shoydesh nishmei seihem zayne ze given choluk b'sichlam, because of the difference in their root of their souls, they were also different in their intellect. Beishamai had noite given lechumra. He was tilting more stringent. Beisila lekula. Beisila was lenient because Beishamai was associated with gevura, different stringency. That's why it's chumra. So since there is different characteristic, is al piteva. So naturally they should have been different and be opposite, especially in the look of their face. Because the look of the face is associated with the character of the soul. You look, your face has an image of what you are in your character. Abal Chesed, a person whose kindness is besefer ponim yofes, that looks a good face, good countenance. Abal Gevura, a person who's stringent mit ashtrengem ponim, with a strict face. So the question becomes, Ma'os HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What did Hashem do? Was faran eitzis faran zu bavonen the taina from the tzone ador. What is kind of a advice is there to answer the argument of the mockers of the generation? The baldas mitzad hateva v'aseder daf Avram v'Yitzchok, since according to nature and the order, Avram Yitzchok zayin hofchim b'klaster ponim v'chulu, they need to be opposite in the look of their face, etc. They should look different because their character is different. And their conduct, just as in their conduct, they are either kindness or strictness, and they are on different lines. So since the mockers of the generation argued, should have been, in that case, different looks, but the mockers argued Avimelech is Abra Sora, that Avimelech sort of became pregnant. In other words, they're not a connection to Avram. Is Osa Kodesh Baruch Advar Chidush. So Hashem made something novel. The opposite of nature and the order. Hashem himself, he formed. That is a greatness that Hashem, beyond the reason and the nature, he formed the cluster, the look of the Hashem Yitzchok's face, that it should be similar to Abraham. And that is what makes the kosher, because you have to bring in a higher level, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. We also understand simply as those was HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tsar cluster ponov sheYitzchok doimel Avraham. This that Hashem formed the look of face of Yitzchok to Avraham is given nit blois, that wasn't just as their gashmis diker oizen zol zayin bedoim. Hashem made it that physically they should look similar. There was also a spiritual aspect in the soul. Hashem made conceptually that Yitzchak should be like Abraham. Not only God, nor Adrabah. Actually, it's on the contrary, because Hashem made that on a spiritual level they should be doimer. That's why physically they. This that they were similar in their physical shape is valzer cluster ponim beruchnis is given bedoime is because their look of their face on the spiritual level was similar. And based upon what is explained in many places, that there is a connection between Gevura and Chesed. We can make Gevura connect with Chesed. Although, notwithstanding the fact that Chesed and Gevura are opposite one for another, Zainen aber the Gevura is the Yitzchak, but Yitzchak's Gevura is a Hemshech und Teitzoah von Chasodim de Abraham. They are a continuation. They are a result of Avram's Chasodim. Yitzchak's Gevura are a result from Avram's Chesed. With the Pasuk Zogdo, as the Pasuk says, Avram hoylidis Yitzchak. Avram gives birth to Yitzchak. Now, one level of it is because in order for Chesed to be able to be mashpia, he needs Gevura to limit, because otherwise the recipient can't receive it. But what we're trying to say is not only in order for the recipient to be able to receive it, but also for the Gevura should be giving, should also be a chesed. Nit nor val disiba. For Gevura is chesed, not only that the reason for Gevura, for tzimtzum, for limitation of Gevura, is because of chesed. Chesed will doch as the hashpoah is only skabel werden, that what he wants it, that what he gives should be received. So And if it's too much good, they cannot receive, so you need to limit it. It needs to be through limitation, which is restricting the flow. More than that. That's not the only thing we're talking about. This stringency of Yitzchok become openly chesed kindness. Durch die Gevuris Davke is through this Gevuris tut sich auf a ribui v'toisus b'hashpah. This adds an additional and a multiple of flow. As known in the explanation, we call when it rains good, strong, it's Gevuris Gishamim, which means the flow comes with force. So it's not just a flow, slow, but it's a powerful flow. Was the far state benegei Yitzchok und va'arbe es zaroi va'eten loy es Yitzchok. Shem says, I made his child many, a roiv, a ribui, by giving him Yitzchok. Yitzchok means giving him the strength to give a lot of hashpah. Arbe, to give Yitzchok. Und oti is kalus von chesed Avram und gvura de Yitzchok. So, and this, to be able to include Avram's kindness and the gvura of Yitzchok, nimmt sich mitzad l'mayla meseder v'hishtalshlus. It comes from beyond the order and the evolved levels of, in a chain, in a relative level as it comes down, but this comes down from above, from the Bible. Mitzad dem ken zayin chibur von hofchim. That's why you can have connecting opposites. And this is why Hashem is Tzor, Hashem himself. Der mit vet man euch verstehen, the Remes in Loshen Chazal, we also understand the hint in the language of our sages of blessed memory. V'hi'idu hakoil Avram hoilis Yitzchok. So the terminology here, they all testify. Testify means to bring out something which we don't know. The pasuk doesn't say that the Chazal don't say nid v'yodu, that v'yedu, that everybody know that, but v'yidu, no v'yidu testify. Rashi has the iber dem loshen at zweitmal. Rashi actually uses the loshen of testimony a second time. Eidus yesh Avram hedus Yitzchok. There is testimony for that. What is the hadgosha doing the menu for Eidus? What is the emphasis? There's a testimony here. So we can say the idea. Eidus is shayich davke fadover hanelam. You can testify about something which is obscure. It's something you don't know. You have to testify about it. If adover hagoli is something which is open, afila if amilso deavidliglu, even if it's something that is going to be known, revealed, darfman ken eidus nithaben. You don't need testimony on that. So when you say to testify, you're telling something that you don't know, you don't see on your own. Das heißt, durch Eidus wird nimshach v'nizgala an inyan. Through testimony, you bring down and you reveal a matter. Bos mitzad atzmei zer l'mayla megeder gilui, which on his own is higher than revelation. Lo yavida l'gilui. It's not meant to be revealed. That is what testimony tells you. That's why we need testifying. And Beruchnis is as the Hamshocha for the Mailam Hishtauslos. On a spiritual level, what is it? Something which is not revealed. That is the bringing down, extending something from higher than Hishtauslos. Und das ist benitten the Dan. And this is in our case the Remes, the hint in Edus, that we're saying Edus. Those was Avram hoided as Yitzchok. The fact that Avram gave birth to Yitzchok, which is his kalulus chesed ugevuro, that is included chesed ugevuro, is as mitzad hamshochas bechinas shalamayla mishtalshlus. This is because it's extended the level of beyond shtalshlus. Loi teva v'seichel, according to nature and logic, kenes nitzayin, it can't be. As hot cannot it has no room, doesn't make. Says ober etus yeshkan. There's a testimony. It's similar to witnesses testify. They saw it. Muslims and you have to believe them. So there is an edus for that. And the Rebbe wants to learn now in the lesson by each one that they has to combine chesed and gevura together in the person's avodah. But the road of Fumba is what is the lesson for this in our service? So he said, do at the time. First, the Rebbe says we have to learn from Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. There are forefathers. So you do at the time was Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, then angerufen Ovis. Known the reason why they're called forefathers. Because they zijn in the Sheirish Moker from Kolachas Mishamas Yisrael, because they're the root and the source of each one of Jewish souls. So we all souls have there's no exceptions. Everybody is a child of Abraham and Yitzchak and the three of us. When the beginners from Yedrin from the Ovis and the levels of each one of the forefathers couldn't be Yerusha, comes as inheritance to Kol Echad Ve'echad B'Bnei Machareim, to each and every one of their sons that follow them in every generation. Is by Yeder Eden Dar Zayin the Avodas from the Aladrai Ovis, by every Yid needs to be the services of all the three forefathers. That fun is move on. So from this we understand that this, what took place, Abraham's face, Hashem made it, Yitzchak's face look like Abraham, is important to all of us. The fun is move on. From this we understood, as euch der Tsar cluster upon of Chulu, that when Hashem forms the image of the face that we learn about by Yitzchak, his kalus of Chesed and Gvura, which means the inclusion of Chesed and Gvura, Kenun Darzain by Yedrid is able to and needs to be by every Yid. Uledugma ve'eshteit in Tanya, similar to what it says in the Tanya, that you can have both emotionally, b'chia, t'chia, b'liboy mesitrada, on one side in your heart you stuck the crying, and v'chedva t'chia b'liboy mesitrada, and then you have joy stuck in your heart from the other side. So you have them both at the same time. But this is an inyan, this is hecher von hagbolas as teva v'seder ishtalshlos. This is a matter which is beyond, higher than the limitation of nature and the order of ishtalshlos. As I said before, as mitzad seder ishtalshlos, that because of the order of the ishtalshlos and the chesed, the gevura, tzvei hofches dike kavim, kindness and stringencies are two opposite sides. Und sie können nicht sein zusammen, and they are not able to be together. That's nature. That's because of the limitation. And the Shtalshlos, Chesed verse 7. Kumaimer as Sifri, as the Sifri said, as Abba v'Yira zusammen können sein b'midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu bilvad. That love and fear together can only be in the measure of Hashem alone, which means in service of Hashem, we can have that bechiyah and the chedva on one hand and on the other hand. Not in Avedis Hashem, not in Yoneh Olam, not in worldly matters. Even in Avedis Hashem, the Rebbe explains, sometimes we can have two separate times, sometimes we can have it at the same time. Sometimes you can have Thursday night should be the bitterness, and Shabbos day the happiness, or you can have it mamash at the same time. Not in the bechiyah t'kiyah chulu zayinadot tzvei madregas. There's two levels in which we say that you have them both together in your heart, on one hand and on one side and the other side. The mid aleph, number one level is the meridah zol zayin donnershtig by nach, and the simcha Shabbos. The bitterness should be Thursday night, and the joys on Shabbos. So it's different times. Beis HaKosher Yoser, which is even more difficult to achieve, the meridas mit simcha zol zayin zusammen. The bitterness and joy should be together, the basachas at the same time. The baldas yedrish is a ish id is a yoidish from the office, since every yid is an inheritor from the fathers. So that means that we have the ability, because a yoidish nemt doch als, an inheritor takes everything. The Mele can yeder einer a kopan of the amin. So everybody has the ability, at least occasionally. Einstellens them sign seder euch them euch and also put a seder in this way to have meritus and simcha at the same time together. Number Oisai. Now the Rebbe says, well, Hashem had two ways, either to make Yitzchak look like Avram, as Hashem did, or we make Avram look like Yitzchak. And the answer is, if you have a choice chesed, the Gemara choose chesed. Zayin, no chayro now, is another lesson from the above is, as in order for everybody to testify that Avram is the one that gave birth to Yitzchak, so the Eibishter could have made in the beginning cluster ponav shel Avram deimeli Yitzchak, that Avram's face should look like Yitzchak. Das is aber afilu betevel ubiseichel shverer, but this is even naturally and logically more difficult is given bepoil than what actually happened. The Eibishter didn't make Avram look like Yitzchak, or didn't create him looking like Yitzchak. Hashem formed the image of the face of Yitzchak to look like Avram. What's the lesson of this to each and every one is? When you have before on hand a service that can be done in one of the two lines, either kava chesed or the kava gevura, in the line of kindness or the line of, and he's not sure which of them to choose. Darf man boicher sein, you need to choose them kava chesed, the line of chesed. And therefore, better make Yitzchak look like Avram than Avram should look like Yitzchak. Similar, that says in similar ways, as b'shasmin is mekarev ayid, when you make a yid close, is levad zois. Besides the fact it's questionable, some people you're not allowed to bring them close, but even if you're not influential and you were reaching out to Perek Lamed Beis in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, at least if you don't accomplish, at least you haven't lost the reward for friendship. Is perhaps, maybe all this, and perhaps you'll be able to bring them close to Torah and the service of Hashem. So if you're not sure, chesed is always what works best, because with chesed, you have the mitzvah of loving thy fellow, and you have the possibility of bringing them close. So now the Rebbe ties this idea to the month of Kislev, to the month of the Geula, to the Alter Rebbe. Ches, Inyan Hanal, this idea has to leave that time of Litzona Doir, that because of the argument of the mockers of the generation, you nullified the nature and the order of Ishtalshalus, gemacht them cluster upon Yitzchak Avram, and you made the face of Yitzchak to be similar to Avram. We can tie this to the idea of spreading the wellspring to the outside. Mainly it started on Yutas Kislev. Tying to that, as Parshas Toldos Faltois Alamol B'Chodesh Kislev, the portion of Toldos is always the month of Kislev, or the B'Shabbos B'Varchim Chodesh Kislev, or maybe on the Shabbos you bless Kislev. So Toldos has a connection to Yutas Kislev because it's always in the month or Shabbos B'Varchim of Kislev. It's the month of Geula, the Chodesh HaGeula, the months of redemption. In Velchanes Giton der Inyan from Yefutzu Mayim Misecha Chutza, in which the idea of spreading the wellspring to the outside. Stays in the Zohar as in Torah and Faran Gufei Torah. Torah has the bodies of Torah, which is Galia, the Torah, the revealed part of Torah. und the Shmosa Deraisa, and the soul of Torah, which is Rosin Deraisa, the secrets of Torah. If we say that the word in the orderly fashion, the soul of Torah and the body of Torah, they seem to be two separate matters. Each one has its own way. The body of Torah is revealed. And the soul of Torah is hidden. And also understood, we call it Razin, we call it secrets, Toldos, the secrets. Men is Megala vert es soid. If you reveal it, it's not anymore a secret. So by definition, this is revealed, and the soul of Torah is hidden. So we have the 19th of Kislev announces, we're going to spread the wellspring outside. As the mayones from Pneumius HaTorah, that the wellsprings of the inner part of Torah, they should extend and be revealed in a way to spread out, also on the outside. Which means that this is a new way of bringing down noise of them. In addition, that Chassidus Chabad brought down the Pnimis HaTorah, the hidden, that you can able to understand and grasp it. Was far dem Alten Rebbe und afilu by the Alten Rebbe before the Alten Rebbe, before and by the Rebbe, far Peterburg is not given as if I feel the Slapshut Bahasoge, it wasn't dressed up so much in understanding. Bis as Chassidus Chabad Mont, Chassidus Chabad, the man's Vichvetush Chabad Mushreibt, as my father, the Rebbe writes, Mezolen and Chassidus Bahasoge. You should learn Chassidus with understanding in themselves, in the same way you study a discussion and a area as in Nigla, the Chutz of the Melemed Atzma, which is the person that is studying goes out understanding. Is noisel, so besides that, Montman Menzol Mayfi Zain the Mayonas Chutza Kipshute, we were demanding to spread the wellspring outside, literally. Tzazulos was gefinzach in Chutza to somebody's outside. There is a Chutza yourself, your brain's understanding it, that's your own outside. But we wanted to go to the Chutza really outside. Unochmer. Menzogdoch Chutza on Kenag outside without any limitation. Das heißt, as the filu in Chutza Yeser Tachten, even in the outside, the lowest level, darf man mefid sein die Mayonas, we need to spread these wellsprings. L'cheira tes is as atmiya gedoyle b'Yesus. This is very surprising. Afilu in nigla sein and dog bullets, even in the real part of there's limitation. Biz kumeshikoso, to the extent the verse says, v'lerosha omer lekim malachol asaper chukoi. To the evil one, Hashem says, why do you relate my statutes? How do we say will springs to the outside? Here we got the lesson. In etzem von Ayid, when it touches the essence of a Yid, was is mushrish in Atzmus, who is rooted in Atzmus, we don't consider the limitation of Ishtalslus. And that Eibishter is Mahapich, and Hashem turns around Vitzor cluster Ponav Shel Yitzchak. He forms the look of the face of Yitzchak as Ozain Doimer LaAvram. It should be like Avram. As Oich Pnimis HaTorah, that also Pnimis HaTorah was Mitzad Sidre Ishtalslus is Ibehelim, which in the order of the Ishtalslus it's hidden Gevura, it's Yitzchak. So Kum and Begilu should be openly Chesed Avraham. The Rebbe Zokta Zegdem is Mekumen der Moshul. The Rebbe says that there is a Moshul directed to this from a Ben Melech was sehr krank geworden, that the son of a king who became very ill. This is nicht gewend kein Eitzer, to the extent there was no other way out nor to tzaraiban an Evan Toiva, only to crush up, to grind up a precious stone, was his kivu in Keser HaMalchus, which was said to be in the crown of the king, and you take that stone and you crush it up, and you grind it down. Was in them is totally ganze Schenkeit. That precious stone, the entire beauty hinges from Nezer HaTorah Machtira, from the crown that crowns the king. And we crush it up and geben das trinken dem Melech, and you give it to drink to the son of the king. But the Melech gesagt, the king said, Azoi vi grois is der Yoker from Keser HaMalchus, that as precious as the crown of the king is das Ober Ka'ain ve'efes, it has zero, nothing. Legabe dem Leben von sein Sohn, once we measure it next to the life from his son, we're going to give this for the son to drink, to revive him. Alpidin torme sich nicht mishtamish sein, afilu b'keser HaMelech. Based according to halacha, you're not allowed to use even the crown of the king. Und do is men in ganzen me'abediger keser, and over here you are destroying the main keser. So leave them ben mehamelech, because of the son of the king. Afal piaz that is the ben melech, even though he's the son of a king, is doch nider melech. He's still not the king. And yet it says for the pregnant king, or b'shas esrirt on chayi b'noi, when it touches the life of his son, welch is mehusi from the melech, which is the essence of the king. Forget about the din. This is the life of his king, of the son of the king. All considerations, all calculations are negated. That Alter Rebbe is nachmeis in the magvaldik inyan. The Rebbe adds a further tremendous idea. Afilu b'shas de matzah from the melech is a fazoifil faraged geworden. Even if the condition of the son of the king has been so worsened, Bizas is a suffix, it's a doubt here that Mekabel sein the mayor of four, whether he is able to accept the medicine, the afila tipamehem, even a drop, from deswegen is kidai, it's worthy, umenzuraib the meven toiva, and you grind up this precious stone, vasruba ver avegin liibud. Most of it will get lost. Tomer, only on the perhaps. But ein trop narangin techpivshan ben hamelech. One drop will enter the mouth of the son of the king. Durch them is askus in yifutza my nesecha chutza. By occupying yourself, spreading the well springs to the outside. Bring dos them kaosimar. This brings the master will come to Malka Mashiach, King Mashiach Meherev Yemenu Mamesh, very speedily in our days. This is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Toldos Tavshin Chofei.